Hello, my fellow readers. This is Dark Symphony 777 with another fan fiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story, and finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, the story I'm doing a review of is My Little Pirates: Luffy's Adventures in Equestria by Full Metal Pony. This is a My Little Pony One Piece crossover. Oh boy, where do I even begin? Where do I even begin with the story? Uh, mm, uh. So I'm going to be upfront. I didn't like the story. I don't think conceptually it was a bad story. Again, conceptually, but this was so massively disappointing that I just couldn't. I couldn't get myself to like it, no matter how hard I tried. When it did try and do something good, it actually was pretty decent. But that was very much in the minor category. Oh boy. Oh very boy. So, for context, because we had to actually settle context in this story, specifically relating to the One Piece side of it, chronologically, this story takes place after the first Sabari archipelago. I cannot pronounce that word. I cannot pronounce archipelago. I think that's the best I could do. No, this takes place right after the first Sabari archipelago arc, where Bartholomew Kuma shows up and basically whooshes all the Straw Hats to be separated for the 2-year time skip. But instead of going to Amazon Lily is replaced with Equestria. And we get a basically retold version of the Marineford saga, because Marineford is basically is done in like 4 little arcs. We have Amazon Lily, Impel Down, we have Marineford itself, and then we have Post Marineford, which is considered like a mini arc by itself, which is just to kind of finish things up and get the time skip ready. But yeah, that's basically it. But this one, it's 4 arcs. We have the Equestria arc, which is basically 2 mini arcs kind of put together, which is Luffy fighting Discord, and then Luffy fighting a very, very pissed off Celestia. Impel Down. Oh, we'll get to Impel Down. Oh, God. Marineford, and then the Tyrek arc, which is basically something else entirely. So let's just get started with the plot. So, we know where we stand with the One Piece. So this is basically Luffy getting zoomed off to Equestria by Kuma, using his Paw fruit powers. Luffy ends up in, I believe it's... I actually think it actually started differently, because it's been so long since I read this story, because I read this is the second time I read the story. I think the first time this story happened is like Fluttershy was just wandering around, heading to doing her job as like caretaker of the animals, and then Luffy kind of crashes in, is knocked out. Fluttershy like wondering what's going on. Luffy wakes up, starts chanting meat, and Fluttershy just completely just does a Fluttershy and just completely gets spooked. And then Luffy gets picked up by Zecora. I think that's I don't remember. I think maybe there's like another One Piece My Little Pony. I'm just kind of mistaking this story for that story. I don't know. But what does happen is, I actually just woke up. Luffy ends up getting zoomed into the Everfree Forest, and kind of just like the other story I was talking about, kind of crashes into Fluttershy. Fluttershy doesn't really know what's going on, so she kind of shakes Luffy awake. Luffy's like, "Hey, you have any meat?" And Fluttershy's just completely confused. It's like, no. Like, oh. I'm a horse now. A pony. A pony? A pony. Well, a pony. I'm a pony now. And it just, Luffy just gets knocked out. And then goes to sleep. Yeah, this sleeping thing is going to be a very, very recurring habit in the story. So, Fluttershy then takes Luffy to Zecora to kind of figure out what's going on because she thinks that either Luffy is like either a transformed pony, like something that is meeting like a griffin or something like that gets transformed into a pony, or he's kind of like hit his head so hard that he kind of thinks himself he's a different animal. Takes us to Zecora. Luffy wakes up again, says food, does of course the rubber thing because at this time no one knew that Luffy actually had a god fruit. That's still even like so long after it happened, it's still surreal to say that Luffy is a god. God damn it, Nika. Oh. um. So yeah, then they kind of splinter from there. Celestia kind of gets a letter from Kuma saying that Luffy is there. I think it never really says. It never really reveals who kind of gave the information to Celestia. It's kind of implied to be Kuma, but she also gets a wanted bounty saying that Luffy has like all this stuff, mainly off the back of I actually can't remember if the Straw Hats bounty increased over the events of Thriller Bark because I think Moria really wanted to keep that a secret. So I can't remember. I honestly can't remember if their bounty actually increased because of that. But I know I know their bounties definitely increased because of the events of Enies Lobby, which takes place before Thriller Bark. It's really confusing. But yeah, Celestia eventually finds out about Luffy. That's mainly after Twilight finding out, deciding to find, being told there's a monster by Fluttershy because she sees Luffy stretch, immediately thinks he's a monster and just skedaddles. Meanwhile, Luffy kind of tells the story to Zecora, and Zecora's like, yes, very nice, very nice. Yes, insert rhyming here. I'm not doing the Zecora rhyme. And then Luffy leaves Zecora's, goes into Ponyville, runs into Pinkie Pie because of course he does. And then they get along swimmingly. Because they share their whole thing with like eating a lot because of course they do. And everyone kind of like the rest of the main six kind of just run around trying to find Luffy, but then they don't even realize that he's with Pinkie, and they get joined. Well, they get joined by by Rarity and Applejack, and then Fluttershy, Applejack, no, Fluttershy, Rainbow Dash, a beat up Rainbow Dash because Rainbow Dash actually slams herself into a tree, and Twilight kind of crash into Sugar Gilmore, like seeing them gorge himself, and then not really so much Luffy because he's too busy gorging himself on sweet because like there's no meat. I need that, so I'm gonna compensate by eating more sweets. Nom 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 nom. So Pinkie tells the story of Gold Roger. Although hilariously, there is a very hilarious grammar error in that tale where when Pinkie tells it, Pinkie actually says one place instead of one piece. I'm pretty sure that's just an accident. I think author just inadvertently goofed. And it's like, pressed like the I button and didn't realize that he pressed thought he pressed the I button, but probably pressed the L button by accident. Probably didn't realize it. I'm going to leave this up. However, Celestia shows up, says that Luffy's not to be trusted because he's not from Equestria, because it's revealed that Celestia made a deal with a former admiral, and kind of, like how, kind of unlike how Boa Hancock became a warlord because she was the strongest and trying to protect people, Celestia became warlord to protect not only her people but also like keep her Equestria as secret from as much people as possible. However, an admiral found out, wanted to use Tartarus as the place for Impel Down. Yes, Impel Down's in Equestria instead of like its own island here. It's very, very weird. Oh, hey, guys. Oh, we haven't gotten to Impel Down yet. Yeah, that's it's a something. Uh, and then Celestia really doesn't trust Luffy, but she's like, eh. Luffy inadvertently finds Luna. Luna's actually eating meat as like a side effect of coming back from the moon. She's like still kind of like has the urges of hunger. It turns out Celestia reveals why she became a warlord because Celestia is taking the place of Hancock in this story. Basically, Luna left Equestria because she kept seeing pirates and she wants to go on an adventure. She got enslaved by the Celestial Dragons, and Celestia basically did like a one goddess assault on where she was held up, and basically rescued her. The Marines finally found out where she lives. A single Marine attacked Celestia. It's like, oh, if I didn't have this rock-based fruit, then you would have beaten me. But now you're going to become a warlord. Otherwise, we're gonna basically reveal Equestria's place to the world. So, hello, Warlord Celestia. And Celestia's like completely bitter about the whole situation. So so unlike Hancock, who like kind of at least embraces the role of Warlord, Celestia really, really is not a fan of being labeled a Warlord because it's like she even like leaving Equestria, she kind of risk having to like risk Equestria. She like wants Equestria to be like by themselves all entirely. So there's a clear difference between Hancock's role and Celestia's role as the job that actually kind of gets explored throughout the Marineford, specifically Marineford. Um, so yeah, it starts. Luna, not Luna. Luna starts becoming like infatuated with Luffy because of course she does because Luna's Hancock too, which is oh that's a mess in itself. Uh, Luffy and Celestia start bickering. Release Discord. Discord starts playing with Luffy. Pisses off Luffy. Luffy then like proceeds to like two-shot Discord and like it like kind of goes like a limp noodle. Celestia kind of gives Luffy. It's like, all right, you technically stopped Discord, so I'll downplay this. However, she's still very pissed off because Luna has a crush on Luffy, and eventually boils over, and she becomes this. Like she gets on fire, and Luffy and Luna kind of have to team up to basically take down Celestia enough that she's kind of calmed down, so that way the main six can get a clear shot with the elements of harmony on hand. However, Celestia basically corrupts Shining Armor and like a couple guards to basically kind of stop the main six from getting the elements. So Celestia kind of takes a little bit more to go down, but eventually she does go down. There's a very hilarious moment where like Luffy's trying to do gear third and he like keeps biting his hoof, but he's like wondering why it's not working because the hoofs are actually hard, so he doesn't know that. And so he basically goes a little bit higher and kind of bites into his fetlock, and that's what actually is able to do the gear third. Basically smoke out enough, weaken her enough for that the main six have a clear shot. Because of the elements of harmony, Shining Armor, the guards, and Rainbow Dash, because Rainbow Dash gets corrupted, are cured. And then we get the Impel Down arc, which, oh boy, this is where I was at least tolerable until the Impel Down arc, but then the Impel Down happened, and my at least tolerance for this story cratered. So what went wrong with Impel Down? One for one! That's what happened. This, instead of trying to do something creative, like focus, like what they did for Marineford, because in this version of Marineford, the story that part of the story very much specifically focuses on Celestia as a character, which I actually liked. This one not only doesn't focus on Celestia until like halfway through, like near the end of it, and even then for like a little bit of time for her to get to Marineford, but also it's literally just Impel Down. Like it's just a one-for-one written version of Impel Down. It doesn't. It's you can't even call it a novelization because the entire story is not a novelization. It's just Impel Down, and the only thing that changes is Trixie's there, kind of goofing, like kind of doing things with Buggy. But other than that, it's literally just Impel Down. Nothing changes. And when I first read this story years ago, and I got to Impel Down, I was like, oh, we're going to Impel Down. And I started reading it. And I realized, wait a minute, why is this? This is just Impel Down. Like, did the author not change anything about the story? And I started skimming it, like just speed reading it, and I realized he didn't change anything. The author did nothing to the story, to this part of the story. So I literally just kept skimming it, hoping something would change. Like, oh, Magellan is a centaur. That's nice. But nothing else changes. Like, everyone's either a pony or changeling. Chrysalis is there. But that's more to set up, like, it's more to set up, like, the first half of the Marineford arc, because part of like Marineford is basically Celestia and Chrysalis going at it. And I'm just like, why? Like, what was the point of this then? Because nothing changes. Like what? Why? And then Marineford happened, which is like, all right, that's fine, because instead of focusing on Luffy, it focuses on Celestia and like her growing like really frustration, not only in the government as the world government as a whole, but her role as a warlord is like in jeopardy, because like unlike Hancock, who kind of does what she wants and more or less just following, like doesn't want to deal with Luffy, Celestia's like completely just overly furious over the fact that they're gonna kill Ace. Oh, just because of the fact that he was born just as a scare tactic. So she's like, fuck this. I'm just gonna help Luffy rescue this guy. Then, if they're gonna kill him for just an asinine reason, I'm basically gonna try my best to just save him and get him to Equestria, which actually does happen. She manages to use magic and create an illusion of Ace dying, so that way they can like get both Ace and Luffy into Trafalgar Law's submarine, so that way she can get them both to Equestria. Ace does survive Marineford, and the fact that it focuses on Celestia's character arc, like giving Celestia something to do instead of copy pasting Marineford, which at least good, because you got to see what Celestia did. You got the fact that she had like all these tricks and tactics. She was very much willing to actually assault Sengoku over that, but she realizes that like some of the other warlords, particularly Doflamingo, he's important. Finding out that she's from Equestria and she's not exactly human herself, because as she's in Marineford, she kind of dons a human disguise, which is like a sort of like more Roman version of Bull Hancock's design with bust. Yeah, you can picture Celestia with a complete bust. She does have, I mean, if Princess Celestia was human, she'd probably have gigantic knockers. Yeah, that's Marineford. It's just, it focuses on Celestia, gives her something to do, actually makes her a more three-dimensional character that I actually really like. And then it kind of occurs again with the Tyrek arc, because instead of focusing on Luffy trying to help Ace out, this is even weirder, because the story is called Luffy's Adventures in Equestria. They're back in Equestria. Guess what Luffy does the entire arc? He's knocked out. He is completely removed from the story for for literally the rest of the story until the very end of the Tyrek arc. And the Tyrek arc lasts about, let's see, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It lasts 15 chapters. Luffy doesn't wake up literally he temporarily wakes up in like chapter 11. So that is a 10 chapters, no, 10, 11 chapters where Luffy's just gone. He's not in the story at all. Despite the fact the story being called Luffy's Adventures in Equestria. No, that your brain's your brain's thinking that like a massive weird leap in logic. We do get Ace as a character hanging out with shiny armor and shot because Ace wants to go back to the pirates. However, Celestia basically helped Ace to everyone outside of Equestria. Ace is dead, and if you do that, not only would that put risk on my people, but also risk Luffy. It would risk the Whitebeard pirates. It would risk everyone. Now, granted, Marco doesn't know that Ace is alive. He's like the only person. He's the only person outside of Equestria that knows that Ace is alive. But you're gonna basically tell the rest of the Whitebeard pirates he's dead because we want him to stay alive. And if he leaves Equestria, that puts him at risk, right? Right. All right. Good, pineapple. I'm not pineapple. Your head shaped like a pineapple. Shut up. However, the Blackbeard pirates find out that Ace is alive because, of course, they do with no logic of their own. I also have Tyrek. Tyrek shows up, basically corrupts several of the minor villains that they kind of dealt with. He corrupts Trixie, he corrupts the Flim Flam brothers, he corrupts Gilda, although Gilda is kind of like at least trying to move on, but he's just like the anger and everything kind of just kept weighing her down. He took advantage, and he also kind of corrupted Suri Polymer. Despite the fact like none of the main six even know who she is. Like, who are you? Her name is Suri Polymer, so she's someone I kind of dealt with. So ignore her. Ignore her. All right, Rarity, ignore her. But yeah, they show up. The Blackbeard, well, mainly just Blackbeard, Jesus, and Lafitte show up. I don't know why Lafitte's there because he's like, hello there. Along with Tyrek, however, they kind of Blackbeard's like, Tyrek wants to do his own thing. He's like, leave him alone. They basically Luna and Celestia train the main six in like hockey training, and then when Blackbeard shows up, they basically tell the main six, deal with Tyrek. We're gonna deal with Blackbeard, and then they both Celestia and Luna get like destroyed by Blackbeard and Jesus and Lafitte. Yes, right, fear Lafitte. Fear the mime. Oh, no. And the main six eventually do defeat Tyrek. It several chapters that happen that it takes because they basically have to fight the rest of the main six have to eventually ward off the corrupted members. While Celestia while Twilight has to go alone against Tyrek. Then she uses the secret spell that Celestia taught her to basically absorb all the elements of harmony into herself. Turns herself temporarily into an alicorn. Basically, is able to wear out Tyrek but they never really defeat him. They just tire them out. Then they get the rainbow power, and then they beat him that way. I do like how Tyrek is portrayed in the story. He's less like an actual villain, more like a malevolent force of anger because he's like born from the anger after Discord gets sealed up, and that's where he kind of comes from. And he's just kind of like very 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 angry guy, like all the time. But he's more instead of like his own character, he's more like just an inhuman vortex of of anger. That's how they beat him. And then Doflamingo shows up and basically tells Ace, "Yeah, I'm gonna kill you. You're dying." So here's your chance. You could let Luffy say goodbye, or you could die and let him know you're still think you're still alive. Oh, by the way, Birdcage, make a decision. Make your decision. I actually thought it was something else. Like I thought it was. This is one thing I thought it was like different. I thought like Doflamingo shows up, beats everyone up, basically is the one that give the scar on Luffy's chest, give the scar to Luffy on his chest, and then basically Luffy has to say goodbye. So yeah, that's basically what happens. Ace knows he's dying because Tierek basically did a number on him and basically kind of caused like his injuries to like rupture, so he couldn't live for long. So basically, all of Celestia's plan in Marineford to save Ace kind of went to waste because Doflamingo really wanted to piss off Luffy. I like, which kind of parlays into the end where after Ace dies and Luffy reunites with the crew. Basically, he's basically goes, "I'm gonna basically find Doflamingo. And I'm gonna beat the shit out of him." Unlike in canon where they kind of drift into Dressrosa and they kind of have to deal with Doflamingo. No, this time they're deliberately going after Doflamingo. It's like, no, I'm gonna kick his ass. Doflamingo, I'm gonna kill you for Ace's death. Like, okay, thanks. Kinda. Yeah, what are you doing? Rubber Boy wants to pick me up. Can you come help me? No, I'm too busy getting drunk. Ulti, go help him. Okay, Pepe, let's go. No, you go alone. Why not? Because I need him to get me more sake. Why not? Why not? Who's who? It's like I'm too busy playing cards. Goldfish. Ah, shoot. Aha! Black Maria. I got any twos? You smart Alec. I don't know where I go with this stuff sometimes. But yeah, the author deliberately sets up a sequel hook where not only do the Straw Hats go to Dressrosa, they're actually deliberately seeking out Dressrosa because I believe the implication is Luffy kind of knows where Doflamingo is from Celestia, or at least from Discord, because Discord kind of helps Rayleigh with Luffy's training. But the main six decide we're just gonna go leave and wander the Grand Line and be like Luna, and apparently they end up in Dressrosa because Sunset Shimmer is actually part of the Doflamingo family somehow. And that's pretty much the story. Plot wise, I don't know what to think of it because on one hand, it does something. It it, it has some good parts, like with Tierek. Like the final fight between Twilight and Tierek was actually really well done. Celeste, the Marineford part was actually well done. But then you have Impel Down, which is just completely uncreative and boring. And I just don't care. I just, I really, I don't, I really wanted to like the story. That's the sad part, is I really, really wanted to like the story. But there were so many baffling decisions that just kept messing with it. Why is Luffy knocked out for like almost the entirety of the last part of the story? Why did the author just do a copy paste job of Impel Down? Why did Discord go down so easily? Why did you make Celestia Luna into Boa Hancock, complete with Luna getting infatuated for no reason to Luffy, just like Boa Hancock? Why did you really? There's no reason for like Doflamingo or Blackbeard to know anything about Equestria. Kuma at least kind of makes sense because Kuma kind of got the information from Dragon. So Dragon probably knew, and probably told, and so Kuma probably knew, or probably was told by Rayleigh. I don't know. Why do so many baffling decisions? Character wise, what characters? There's some semblances of character, like with Celestia in Marineford. Twilight kind of goes through some character development, but that's really it. Luffy doesn't really change that much in the situation. Luffy kind of makes sense because they're trying to at least adhere to the One Piece canon. So Luffy kind of staying as a static character for literally the entire time. That one makes sense. But the fact that none of the other main six besides Twilight and Celestia really change as characters, it's just lacking. Grammar errors outside of the possible inadvertently typing place instead of peace for Pinky telling the story of Gold Roger. I didn't see any grammar errors. Pacing, this story is a very, very weird pace because in between each arc, there's like these set of drift stories, which are basically just more non canon stories of like what happened if the other Straw Hats ended up in Equestria, like what do they do? And honestly, these are the best part of the story because instead of being like a coherent story, they're just goofy. They're just the other Straw Hats just getting into random shenanigans, stuff like that. That just end up in. I do like Robin chapters the most. The Changing History 1 and 2. Those are probably the best ones. Uh, so I don't really hate it. Like I don't like these are honestly the best parts. The all of a sudden drifts. Because you get like the Cutie Mark's Crusaders getting taught by Usopp on how to lie because they think a lying Cutie Mark would work. Despite the fact they failed at being a lawyers, despite the fact the lawyers like have to lie. That's part of their job. I don't think actually I think there's even a nice touch where like Chopper doesn't really change. I think he actually does he? I can't remember. Does he? I can't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like Chopper doesn't really change. Like everyone kind of mistakes him for a dog, but I think like the wording implies that he just literally didn't change at all. Because he's more or less already an animal. There is also the weird decision to make them all ponies because minks exist. Like, couldn't you just made them like? If there's one story that I think it just would have made sense to make them anthro, it would have made this story. It would have been this story because minks exist. There wouldn't be too much of a stretch to have a like a horse like mink culture separate from the rest of the minks in Zoe. And I think what Zoe when did Zoe come out? When did